I'd like to invite you to take a few deep breaths with me. Sit up nice and tall, unclench your jaw, stop scowling at me, relax your shoulders, you can unfold your arms. Excellent. Take a few deep breaths, close your eyes if you like. Breathe in your nose and out your mouth. And while you do this, I would like you to think of the best boss, coach, or teacher you ever had. I'd like you to think about what they said or did, how they made you feel, and how you acted as a result. So your best boss, coach, or teacher, what they said or did, how they made you feel, and how you acted as a result. You can open your eyes. Now, my guess is that your best boss, coach, or teacher listened to you. They cared about you. They challenged you. And that made you feel capable. It made you feel empowered. And it made you feel a little bit resilient. And as a result, you probably showed up, you probably put in more effort, and you probably said nice things about the company. Now, we could do the opposite, and I could ask you to think about your worst boss, but I'm not in the mood to traumatise a perfectly lovely group of people. My name's Leanne Butterworth. I run a social enterprise called Empathy First, and we do empathy training and empathy education. I also lecture social enterprise here at QUT. I did a TEDx talk here at QUT back in 2022 called Healthy Empathy Can Save Lives, including yours. And I won some award. Now here is what I have learned through all of my empathy trainings with police and nurse and lawyers and psychologists and teachers. Every single person that you meet at their very core wants to feel heard, valued, visible, and safe. Now, I know from personal experience what the opposite of that feels like. I know what loneliness and dismissal feels like. So the mission of Empathy First is to create a world where every single person feels heard, valued, visible, and safe. Now, there are some amazing people in this room doing some amazing work with the Sustainable Development Goals. We've got some social enterprises, we've got some not-for-profits, social traders are up there, we've got some B Corps, we've got people working in CSR, we've got people working in ESG. Now, if we want to achieve any of this, we need people. We need engaged, inspired, motivated people, don't we? However, the state of the workforce in Australia tells a slightly different story. Gallup's State of the Workplace report from last year says that in the Australian workplace, 23% of the workforce are thriving. They're engaged, they've got positive work, their relationships are good, they're learning, they're taking initiative, they're growing, they're contributing. We've got 10% loud quitting. They are actively disengaged. We know that they are there. There's high stress, there's conflict, there's crisis. That leaves 67% of our workforce is quiet quitting here in Australia. Now that means that they are psychologically disengaged. They are watching the clock, they are filling a seat, they are hiding in the bathrooms, they're on Facebook. Yeah? They are stressed, they are exhausted, they are burnt out. They are not putting their hand up in meetings, they are not volunteering for more tasks, they're potentially presenting substandard work. They are not bringing their best selves to work. But they've found that this is a group who desperately are waiting to be engaged, inspired, and supported. Now, this is the way that I look at an organisation. I sort of think of it like a jar full of marbles. And for too long, the well-being and health focus has been on the marbles. Just speak up, just call the EAP, just be more resilient, eat the apples in the break room, just go to yoga on a Friday and just go play some ping pong. There has not been enough focus on the jar, on the organisation and on the leaders. And as much as Willem just talked about we don't want to be told what to do, well, here in Queensland, you kind of got it now. The Queensland Workplace Health and Safety Regulation says employers have a duty of care to protect their staff from psychosocial risks. And a risk is a hazard that arises or relates to the design or management of work, a work environment, a workplace interaction, or behaviours that may cause psychological harm. Now, what do you think the number one cause of stress in the Australian workplace is? The number one cause of high stress in the workplace are leaders and managers. And 70% of team disengagement is attributable to leadership. Feels true, doesn't it? Now, where does empathy come into this? Well, I'm a bit of a nerd. I am here at QUT, and I have a favourite research paper because, as you do. This is my favourite research paper. It's out of Iceland, and two lovely people called Inga Johndottir and Kari Christensen looked at the relationship between leaders' empathy, work engagement, and well-being. Now, previously we've thought that, well, if people are well, they'll come and engage at work. Inga and Kari found that it was actually the opposite. Leaders and managers' active empathetic listening then created an environment of work engagement, dedication, enthusiasm, and involvement, which then led to improved well-being. Less stress, less depression, less anxiety, less stress, less fatigue. And that then led to improved retention and loyalty, or what I call the art of empathy: attract, retain, and thrive. Here's a little bit more employee data, because I do love some data. A little bit more employee data to back this up. This is from Business Solver. 82% of people would consider leaving their job for a more empathetic organisation. That jumps to 87% for our millennials. 78% would choose an empathetic employer over a less empathetic organisation with a higher salary. I see a lot of nodding. 93% of people are likely to stay with an employer who empathises with their needs. I see a lot of nodding. Feels true, doesn't it? Yeah, we stay where we matter. Now, let's talk about this empathy thing for a second. Because a lot of times I do a lot of empathy training, talk in front of police a lot, and they'll introduce me and they'll go, Leanne Butterworth, the empathy chick, and there's this collective audible, ooh. Oh, does wonders for my self-esteem. But the reason this happens is because there are so many myths and misperceptions about empathy, in Australia in particular. We think that empathy is give, give, give. We think you're either born with it or you're not. It's just being nice. It leads to burnout. Empathy is a weakness. Empathy doesn't belong at work, and it's some soft, nice-to-have skill that we can just cross off the training budget. Yeah? Empathy is a learned skill that saves lives, without question. Now, this is the way that I look at empathy. I've come up with a map or a mental model. Empathy as a concept has only really been around for about 120 years, so there's lots of researchers all over the world doing lots of work and coming up with lots of different mental models. But this is what I have come up with, and it's based on the work of Goleman and Ekman, who are two emotional intelligence gurus out of the USA. I don't just talk about empathy. I talk about healthy, sustainable empathy. Now, the first type on the whatever side that is, there we go, that side, is emotional empathy, all right? The feeling, that's the one that makes people go, because we want to feel the feelings of other people, okay? It's also called emotional contagion. It's the one that your friend feels sad, you feel a bit sad. We kind of catch their feelings because we're not robots. Unhealthy emotional empathy can happen when we have poor boundaries, when we take on people's stuff. So if I take on your stuff, and I take on your stuff, I got nothing left for you, I'm really sorry. I'm in apathy. I got nothing left. And that's where burnout lives. And we see this in a lot of our frontline service workers. We see it in nurses, we see it in police, we see it in fireys. Yeah, we see it in psychologists because they don't have a concept of what healthy empathy is. They take it all on because they think more is better. It's feeling all the feelings and more is better. I need to take on more stuff. Not true. Up the other, you can see my little friend there is feeling pink, and I just take on all of their stuff. Up the other end, we've got cognitive empathy. That's the thinking. You might have heard the phrase, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Unhealthy cognitive empathy, we forget to take our own shoes off first. So I hear what it's like to be you, but then I process it through my lens, my privilege, my experience, my values, my unconscious bias, and I hand your experience back to you with a spoonful of judgment and go, you know what you should just do? And the person goes, oh, thanks. Because hands up who, your favourite thing is being told what you should just do. Unsolicited advice, you love it. Up here in cognitive empathy, we've got assumptions, unconscious biases. So you can see my friend is feeling pink. I'm not asking any questions. I'm not getting curious. I'm just going to make assumptions that they're purple. In the middle, we've got compassionate empathy. The doing is different to compassion. Compassionate empathy is the ability to, or at least the really good attempt to, share and understand the feelings and perspectives of someone else and reply in a way that makes them feel heard, valued, visible, and safe. So when we do empathy training, we do things like emotional literacy. Can you name more than 4 emotions? I talk to police a lot. They go mad, bad, sad, glad, done. Then they go anxious, afraid, angry, happy, sad, done. So according to the guy who created the emotions wheel, there's 34,000 different emotions. We're playing with 4. It's good. So emotional literacy, curiosity, listening. Healthy cognitive empathy, unconscious bias training, getting out of your own head, getting out of your own way and not believing everything you think. So you can see my friend is there. I take on a little bit of them. They take on a little bit of me. Empathy training is in 3 directions. For ourselves first, our colleagues second, and those in our care third. That's all of it. You can take a photo now. Wait, nothing. I'm taking this off my 17 minutes, by the way. All right, here we go. Now, the thing about empathy training is I'm not expecting you all to skip out of here hand in hand. I love you. It is not group hugs. Yeah? Empathy training is planting the seed that there is a different perspective, a different way of thinking about this, and that there are practical skills that go with it. Not so long ago, I had a police officer come up to me and go, yeah. I said, what? And he's a senior police officer. And I said, what? He said, I had somebody come into my office. She was quite distressed. He said, I heard myself say, you need to. He said, I stopped. I apologised. He said, I need to listen. Yes. I said, what was the impact of that? He said, it was amazing. We had a conversation. She came back. Good. Now, the interesting thing is I talk to a lot of people and I say, empathy training. And they go, yay. They go, oh, I know somebody who needs that. Now, as humans, we're actually really bad at judging how empathetic we are. Because very few people say to me, yeah, I need that. They asked a bunch of CEOs, how empathetic are you? And 86% went, yeah, we're great. We're empathetic. It's awesome. Then they asked the staff. That's a 40% gap. We've got some work to do. A little while ago, I was having a conversation with somebody quite high up in social enterprise who interacts and cares for young people who are experiencing challenges. And they said this, we deal with these problem people. Exactly. It broke my heart That's a culture, and that is toxic, and that is not conducive to the SDGs. It is not conducive to getting better. Yeah? We have a responsibility to create an environment within all of our businesses, social enterprise, not-for-profit, muggle businesses, it's fine, to create an environment where every single person feels heard, valued, visible, and safe. Now, I've run lots and lots of training, and I have the Professional Empathy podcast, and what I have found is it does not matter what industry you are in, what your profession is, you attract, retain, and thrive when you make people feel like they matter. Without question. There is not a person I have interviewed yet, and you might notice the trademark boys are there, there's all sorts of people there, we've got conversations about death, all sorts of conversations. There is not a single person who goes, yeah, business is great when you treat people like... If we want a world where people experience good health and well-being and have decent work, we must absolutely start with organisations that are inclusive, empathetic, and create a sense of belonging. So some of the things that we can do to save the world as an organisation, we can make an active commitment to the people, to planet, and purpose, and remember that there is an S in ESG. We can create a culture of listening and curiosity and diversity, equity, inclusion, and the B is belonging. You miss that bit out, the rest is just lip service. We do empathy training, we have conversations at all levels, we make real investment into this, we create a culture of reflection. What is my role in this? And we continuously improve, and we continuously have conversations because this is not set and forget. The other question I get is, let's dispel this myth that you have to choose between profit or people. That is not a decision that you have to make. Belinda Palmer in 2020 found that those in the 2015, so the top 10 companies in the Global Empathy Index 2015, increased in value more than twice as much as the bottom 10 and generated 50% more earnings. Think about the impact that your best boss had on you, your health, your happiness, and your productivity. We have a massive opportunity here to engage a workforce who are desperate to feel heard, valued, visible, and safe if we are going to have any impact on the SDGs. My name's Leanne Butterworth. Everybody loves a QR code, but if you want to know how empathetic your team is,